Welcome to the Operation Self-Reset podcast. And now your host, Jake Naraki.
What is going on, Reset Nation? Welcome back to Operation Self-Reset. This is part 2 of our Charlie Hoehn interview series. And if you have not already, make sure you check out episode number 38, which was the beginning of our conversation with Charlie Hoehn. Charlie is a gentleman who connected with Tim Ferriss, went through some crazy turmoil in his own personal life. The way he got in contact with Tim Ferriss was by working for free for other entrepreneurs online, and the ball, kept rolling down the hill, and he got more connections. The next thing you know, he's working full-time for Tim Ferriss. Awesome guy. Awesome interview in number 38. It's about working for free. Yes, it sounds ridiculous, but I tell you what, you got to go and check it out. So last episode, I forgot to give a quote of the day. So today, though, we have a special quote from Andre, and he is from Bucharest, Romania. I totally botched that name. He's from Romania in Bucharest, I believe that's how you say it. And his quote goes like this: "Spirit is the playground of your soul. Invest into your body and mind. It's the only investment that will bring you infinite return on investment." Andre, deep. And I appreciate you for sending that in all the way from Romania. The cool thing about this world is that we have internet and email. We're able to connect with so many different people from around the globe. Andre, man, thank you so much for sending that in. If you have a quote that you truly enjoy and love, please send it over to ask@osreset.com. I'll feature you on a podcast. And with that being said, here is our part 2 of Charlie Hoehn, Play It Away, his new book about getting over depression, anxiety, by simply doing one thing that all of us did when we were children that we slowly started to separate from when we became older. So here is the interview with Charlie Hoehn. But let's get into now your journey. All right, this is where your turmoil, this is where everything kind of is at its peak and it starts falling apart. So you work with Tim Ferriss. If people don't know, Tim Ferriss has multiple books, The 4-Hour Workweek, The 4-Hour Body, The 4-Hour Chef. He is very, very popular individual. And And so you hooked up with him, you helped him during his book launch. And now talk about, let's go into your work ethic when it came to this book launch. Tell us through the hours that you worked, the places you traveled to, the people you had to talk to, the hustle and bustle that you were doing personally to make this a success.
Yeah. Well, during that time, during the 4-Hour Body, we worked really, really hard. I remember distinctly in Argentina, I was thinking I could take a quick little vacation while I'm down here and kind of work while I'm down here, and ended up lugging around a 700-page manuscript and going through it line by line, making sure the publisher had made the corrections that Tim had asked them to make. And I remember being just really sick because I was working a lot, but I was also trying to balance it by having a lot of fun while I was down there, and that didn't always work. So the 4-Hour Body, we had to pull a lot of all-nighters to get it done by the deadline, and because it's a huge book. Writing a book is an undertaking. Writing the 4-Hour Body is it's not a one-person job. It takes a team to build a book like that.
Yeah, it's like 500, 400, 500 pages, right?
670. And Tim cut 200 pages.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a crazy, and it's all good for the most part. It's a great book. There's a reason it's sold over 1 million copies. It's a really good book.
It is.
And but we worked really hard. But at that stage of the game, I was still super enthused and really, I felt in a good place. I was stoked about the work I was doing. I was really excited, and I was getting to work on something that was meaningful. I'd seen the 4-Hour Body help my parents lose 25 pounds each.
Wow.
In in a short period of time and regain a lot of their health. And so I knew the stuff in it worked. And so I was really excited about what I was doing.
Yeah, you really believed in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next big project was the opening the kimono. And that was my biggest project that Tim had given me to date. So while I was working with Tim, I was constantly asking for more responsibility because I wanted to be like the best in the world at my job, and I wanted to become like him. Sure. I wanted to be like this hyper efficient dude who could do everything.
Right.
And I wanted to learn as much as possible from him because I knew it was like a really amazing opportunity, obviously. So opening the kimono, that was a steady buildup, but opening the kimono was a book marketing conference that over 130 authors and entrepreneurs from all around the world paid $10,000 a piece to get into. And they were expecting like this crazy experience, and I was in charge of it, the whole thing.
No pressure.
And I was 25, so it was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. I'm in this amazing position to knock this out of the park, but I'm also terrified.
Sure.
Because you're handling stuff like hotel room discounts and also sponsorships and the staging and what people are eating for every meal and what their entertainment is like. Jeez. And the transportation between venues and how are they going to be entertained during the transportation. There's so many details. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
And you're juggling individual emails at the same time from every single person coming.
And you're the guy. You're the only guy.
I had the help. Fortunately, this is another great example. My friend Susan Dupre, she's now, I believe, in her late 30s or early 40s. She reached out and she said, "Hey, I'm an event planner. I'll work for you for free."
Oh my God.
And let me make this clear. Susan Dupre is not an amateur. She helped launch the original iPhone with Steve Jobs. Wow. She was the event planner for that. She also was the event planner for HBO's The Sopranos. She was the event planner for, she was the worldwide she was the worldwide Apple event planner. She's not a joke. She can do anything she wants, but she recognized the value of getting an in with us because she could meet all these other people and see, like, they would see what a great job she did. So she helped me a ton.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, she was really good at her job.
Were you excited when you saw that email? Were you like,
oh my God,
thank God?
I was like, this validates everything I've been teaching, first of all, but also like, thank you, God, for sending me
an angel.
Yeah. So she really saved me. But before that event, I was so terrified of screwing things up, all day long, preparing for this event for months. I was sitting in a cafe drinking coffee, trying to just stay on point, and get everything done. And I obviously wasn't being efficient when I look back on it. I was working independent of Tim too, by the way. He was working in his neighborhood. I was working in Nob Hill. And so before the event, I ordered these brain pills, basically, which were created for people with narcolepsy that the military uses to keep fighter pilots awake for multiple days at a time.
Yeah, now, wait, before you continue with that, I was actually going to ask you about this. I mean, it's kind of, you refer to it as like the movie Limitless, correct? Would you compare it? I mean, was it almost that potent? I mean, how did you hear about it first off? Probably Tim suggested it because he's the chemist. No? Okay.
He didn't suggest it.
Okay.
I learned about it while doing research for the 4-Hour Body because one of the tasks he gave me was find out what the military uses to get their soldiers to sleep and what they do to help them stay awake. Okay. So he wanted to know what like the government endorses basically. Right. And it was like at the low levels, it's caffeine. Right. And at the very high end levels for 72-hour missions, they use this drug.
That's wow.
And so it was really pretty intense. So I secretly ordered these and I took them every day of the event. And they really worked. And I stayed up basically the entire event for 4 days straight and was lucid. I get people, I don't even know. I always say lucid and then I'm like, did I use that correctly? I was awake.
Sure.
And I was thinking very clearly and I was able to multitask better. And it was like easy for me. And people throughout the event, I'm not saying this to brag, but this is actually a phrase that I heard several times was, man, I need to get myself a Charlie. Like these entrepreneurs were like, oh, I need to get this hyper efficient assistant who handles everything. And like, and the reality is like, I was on drugs and, and like, this drug is pretty pervasive actually in Silicon Valley. Like CEOs take it and coders take it so they can go and go and go and keep working and keep working. Right. And it burned me out for sure. It had an effect on my health. After that event, I felt like I was like, I'm a wreck.
Yeah. Also with that, you were probably, socializing, you're, drinking, you know what I mean? Probably doing a lot of things that you weren't supposed to do on that medication, or I wouldn't even say medication, just that pill. So what were the effects? I mean, tell us now, walk us through like the decline, after this event. I mean, did you stop taking the pill? What were the effects of that? Did you get a little time to think about what has, progressed over the last couple of years working with Tim? Did you have a little break? What happened?
So after the event, everything went really well. So I was on like a high as I was driving back to San Francisco from Napa Valley. And I was like, just thrilled. And I think I'd slept a total of 6 hours over 4 days. So I immediately like went to bed.
Yeah.
And I just
I'd say you need it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was chronically in a sleep deficit. Like if you pull an occasional all-nighter, fine.
Right.
I'd pulled so many all-nighters over the course of my career, just trying to be better at work. And I always deprived myself of sleep. And what made matters worse were like I was always looking at screens and I was always drinking coffee and I wasn't getting around and moving enough. But like what I felt after that event was I felt for the first time like I am exhausted and miserable and I feel awful all the time. And my hands started shaking. And I started just feeling like I was on the verge of crying, but I couldn't. It was weird. It was just like I'm always on the verge of crying, but I don't. Sure. And so I just felt awful and very self-conscious and ashamed. And I didn't understand why I felt so terrible. And I was like, I can just work my way through this. And I can just tough this out because I've done it before. Like, I don't, like, what do I have to complain about? Like, because a few days after that event, we started working on the 4-Hour Chef. Like we sat down and we're like, all right, next big project.
Oh,
here we go. And we kind of planned out like, all right, what is the deal for the upcoming future? Like, what are we going to be working on? And I said to Tim, I was like, man, that event went great. What do you think, like, for us going into the future? And he offered to double my salary if I could help him get through the 4-Hour Chef, because he was like, this is another huge undertaking, and I can't do it alone. And I immediately took him up on that offer because I was like,
oh yeah, you'd be crazy not to, right? Yeah.
Right. It's like I get a cool project under my belt. I'll be making more money than I've ever made, and and I'll be living the dream. Like this is what everybody wants.
Sure.
And but as the weeks went on, I realized I started to suspect I made a horrible, it's like Job from Arrested Development. I made a terrible mistake, Right. And I was like, man, what have I done? And I just felt worse and worse. And I looked worse and worse. My eyes had these deep, dark circles, and I just wasn't into cooking. to be honest, like I tried. I really tried.
Sure.
And cooking kind of comes naturally to me. It's not super hard for me. It's just like a thing, but I don't care about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this isn't really fun. I don't really believe in learning how to cook or teaching people how to cook. Whereas with the last book, we were actually changing people's lives, and it was very, very obvious that Tim's information was transforming people.
Right. So it wasn't like that you were just, obviously you're still getting burnt out from jumping on a new project, but also too, you weren't stimulated by it. You didn't have that want to know, why these things, how are you able to lose this, weight, or it wasn't affecting you like the 4-hour body was.
Right. I didn't have the same drive, but also deep down, it was like I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And so working on something, it not only being in a physically exhausted state, but also working on something that I just wasn't that into made it doubly hard. And so there was a week where I was just like, I was just feeling awful, trying to work my way through it and just being like, okay, I can make it to December. That was the original deadline of the 4-Hour Chef. I was like, I can make it through that. That's only a couple months away. I can do that. And then within a 48-hour period, the deadline got moved back 3 months. Then a family member died, and then a close friend of mine attempted suicide.
Oh, man.
And it was just like all of these things hit me at once. And I was just like, I can't, like Tim and I sat down for dinner at some point, and I was just like, dude, I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. I have to quit.
Sure.
And I was terrified because I knew I was going to quit. But I was just like so scared because I was like, I'm going to burn a bridge. I'm leaving him in the middle of the 4-Hour Chef.
Right.
And I was just, it's so scary to quit. It's like way worse than breaking up with somebody, because Tim and I had worked together forever, and like things were always usually like pretty harmonious, and it was a cool job. Like I had so many benefits to it. You read the article, but I met all these amazing people and did all these amazing things, and that just frankly not only are out of reach for the average person in their 20s, but are out of reach for everyone.
Yeah.
And so I experienced this crazy world, and it was really scary and difficult for me to quit that.
Did you talk to anybody about those feelings? Like, did you talk to your parents about like, oh, I'm thinking about quitting, I'm getting burnt out, or was it more of an internal, battle that you're trying to work through yourself?
That was the hardest part, man. Was I tried talking to a few people about it. I talked to my parents about it, and my parents are like have always been supportive and understanding, but they were like, you shouldn't quit like and leave Tim in the middle of this.
Sure.
And I was like, man, but I have to.
Right.
I have to, otherwise I will die.
Right. Yeah, sure.
Not die, but like I'll break down. This is going to be torture.
Yeah.
And so I just had to make the hard decision to leave. And I talked to my roommates about it, and they were like, man, sounds tough. It's like,
well, especially too when it's something physical that you feel your body is just totally beaten down. It's hard to explain that to people, especially you are working with Tim Ferriss. You're traveling, you're meeting, A-list people. I mean, I can only imagine the things that you experienced being a part of that journey. And for you to think to yourself that you're going to quit, especially so early on, you're so driven and trying to learn everything. I mean, those were the red flags. And I mean, good for you for listening and taking the bull by the horns and wanting to quit. So how did he handle it? How did Tim handle it?
Well, one more thing to add to that,
sure.
just real fast, is like, it took me a long time to acknowledge these feelings as important. Okay. In my mind, I was so caught up in how serious and important I was. And I was just like, my work is everything. This is my life. This is my identity. I can't pull this away. And it took me so long to acknowledge how horrible I felt.
How long? Couple months?
I mean, and not so long to acknowledge it, but like I knew I felt horrible, but I didn't know that I was doing it to myself.
Sure.
That makes sense. So it was a tough decision. And Tim actually, he handled it so much better. Like in your mind, you always have the worst case scenario. Like,
right.
What if he just like loses his mind? Like, we're in a public restaurant. Like, what if he just gets like crazy angry and starts yelling at me? Like that would
flips you over a table or something, right?
Yeah. Tim knows all these fighting moves.
That's true. He does. Yeah.
So he handled it really well. He was just like, he's like, I totally understand. Like what I was going through. He I told him, about my friend and like family member, and he was like, I get it, and he was just basically like, so what are you gonna do now?
Right.
And I in my mind I was like, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, sure.
But I was just like, well, I'm probably going to work on, I've developed an app that I've just been sitting on for a while, so I'll probably do something with that. And but in reality, I had no idea. I just like I knew I was a mess, and yeah.
How long did it take you to recover from that to go into your next project? After that conversation, did you just lay in bed for a week to kind of recharge the batteries?
That was the worst part. It was I went into my next thing like several months later, not several, but a few months later, but I wasn't ready. Like I was still I was still a mess. Like I didn't take care of myself when I quit. I paced around like looking for things to do. I kept checking my cell phone. I kept drinking tons of coffee and staying up late because I was just like, well, this is the existence I've known forever. Like this working around the clock and hustling. And I felt so guilty for quitting and being unemployed.
Yeah.
I felt so guilty because I was like, I just threw everything away and I'm losing money. And so I started becoming paranoid because I was just like, I'm losing money. The economy is going to hell. Like I was consuming so much news all the time, and the news is the worst. By the way, this is a quick tangent, but the news is possibly the worst thing you can consume if you are an anxious person or dealing with anxiety. If you cut the news, not just like CNN and the radio and all this stuff, but anything negative and sensationalist and just garbage that you see on social media, if you completely cut that out, you will become so much calmer because you're not subscribing to other people's realities. And they aren't realities. They're just creating stuff to get you to click on their links so you can see their ad. They'll say anything.
Yeah.
And they make everything so much more dramatic. Even the people who are like, yeah, I'm delivering the truth about the government and the news.
Right.
Those people are all playing the same game of like, they're trying to get money from you by you seeing their ads. And so it's all like just all made up. So it shouldn't affect how you live on a day-to-day basis. Like so many people come down on me for not so many people, but several people have emailed me and been like, dude, like you can't just cut out the news. Like you're an uninformed citizen. And that's total nonsense because if something truly important that is really going to affect me on a day-to-day basis happens, I'll either hear about it or I'm never going to hear about it because it's so secret that no one knows about it.
Right.
Like it's just, you can't be on this endless hunt for protecting yourself from all these outside threats. You just have to live your life in the best way that you know how. And the news never gives you anything but reasons to be afraid of the world and afraid of other people. And that is not how an anxious person gets out of anxiety. It's how they reinforce it.
Nice. Charlie for president. You got my vote. No, that's so true though, man. I mean, I used to love the news because my dad, I grew up in the Midwest, we're blue collar workers, you come home from work, you eat dinner, you watch the news, you socialize, you go to bed, you repeat, whatever. And my dad loves the news and I started watching the news. I really liked it, but as time goes on and you start to realize that you could be putting that time towards different things and realizing how negative it is and how secretive this and oh my God, this is earth shattering. If you don't know about it, your life will continue. And think of that time that you can put towards your own personal goals, your own personal success, or just creating a better life for you and your family. You know, I think you hit it on the head, especially social media. It's great to connect with each other, but come on. I mean, you get dragged into it, you know, like you said, those headings, everything. You hit it on the head, man.
It creates this mentality, and it's unfortunate because the internet is so great in so many ways, but it also creates these minds of, have you ever seen when there's a bunch of fish just all hopping on the surface?
Right. Yeah.
That's like what your mind is like, when in reality it should be really smooth and calm. And if you're subscribing to all these instantaneous thoughts that are all chaos and random and have these sensationalist headlines, you're going to be freaked out at some point. Your mind is not going to be a calm place.
Yeah.
So you need to cut that stuff out. It makes such a big difference.
Oh, for sure. That's a good visual. I like that. The fish jumping around the water. That was good. That was really good. Because I think everybody can picture that. Nice job. Nice job, Charlie. I like that. So everybody that's on Facebook right now, put it away, delete that app, move on with your own life. Anyway, so let's talk about then, like, about you. You know, let's talk about your kind of your reset. You know, coming out of this total teardown and destruction of your life, or your mental destruction of feeling that you're not, you know, you're a quitter. You know, you're just feel exhausted still. You're still amped up though, because you're living that lifestyle of that entrepreneur that's always hustling, always bustling. What was the coming out party for Charlie?
The coming out party in terms of, like,
coming out of that that lull.
So it took a while, man. I worked at another startup for several months, and I realized I didn't want to do that, even though that was successful. I worked at an app startup, and then I went back into hyper anxious, even worse mode.
Oh man!
For a long time. You know, I said I wasn't ready when I went into the next thing, and that was the next thing. And then I quit that because I realized I'd done something wrong, even though we did well during the time that I was there. So it took me a while, and I tried everything to get back to my normal self. I had this long list in the book, but man, I did freaking everything that people do to get rid of anxiety or calm the symptoms. Did meditation, I did deep breathing, yoga, journaling, I did therapy, I did acupuncture, massages, chiropractors, naturopaths, high intensity workouts. I did super long runs, super clean diets. I took supplements, I took drugs. I tried extended fasting. I did prayer. And I even took like a 6-week course made specifically for men who want to overcome anxiety. And basically none of it worked. None of it stuck. It stuck. And I didn't know why. And I was really depressed after a while because I was like, well, and the worst, I think, was visiting my doctor and being like, hey, I'm going through these horrible things, and having panic attacks, which are the worst sensation ever. Like your heart, it feels like you're having a heart attack, and your mind plays an endless loop saying that you're going crazy and that you're going to die, and you hyperventilate and you think you're going to die. Right. And it's awful. It's the worst. And so I was dealing with all this silently, of course, like wasn't telling anybody.
Sure,
because,
of course, you're a guy, you're not going to, preach it on everybody.
Right. And so I was keeping all this to myself. And then I went to my doctor. I told her what I was going through. And she's like, oh, you're just sleep deprived. And I was like, well, can't argue with that. Sure. And she's like, well, I'm going to give you a couple pills. Give them a try for the next couple of nights. You'll be back to normal. I was boy. What? Awesome. And so she gave me some benzos, which I knew nothing about at the time. And right before I took one, she gave me 30 of them, by the way, not 3. And right before I took one, I decided to look them up on Wikipedia, and then went down the rabbit hole of like blogs and forums about people who'd been taking the drug. And I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing I could possibly go on.
Sure.
Why would they recommend this to me? Oh, because of financial incentives, because they are ultimately an affiliate for this drug.
Sick, isn't it?
It's I don't know how people can take Western medicine seriously on almost any level. Like I've met, and I'm not bashing doctors. Don't
Right.
get me wrong. I am friends with many doctors and many nurses. I think they're wonderful people. Western medicine is fundamentally so screwed up and not in the interests of anyone. Like it really destroys people's health. They hide symptoms. They don't
Yes.
care about causes. And so that was, you know, a 5-10 minute appointment where I was just immediately given pills that are as addictive as opium or heroin and have withdrawal symptoms that are consistently worse than the symptoms they fix or hide, I should say. And every testimonial I read online was like, yeah, I'm still on the drug, stopped working after a week, but I'm addicted.
Oh my God.
Every single one. And so I threw those pills away.
Good for you.
Like, if I go on these, like, I could potentially make things 10 times worse.
Yeah, but you know what, though? They probably have a pill to get you unaddicted to that. See?
I know. That's
Right.
the beauty of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's just so messed up. So I was like really cynical and really upset and paranoid, which anxious people tend to be. And so I was trying everything to heal myself naturally, and nothing really stuck. But the first thing that did, the first major breakthrough that ultimately like laid the foundation for me to overcome my anxiety and just like completely get rid of the debilitating anxiety that I'd been dealing with for well over a year, was I read this book called Play by Stuart Brown, and it just opened my eyes that I was approaching the world, everything, as a prison. Like I had completely deprived myself of play for years unknowingly. Like my mentality, the way I viewed the world had shifted from what I was talking about earlier of like having my own fun and creating a game that I wanted to play into this is an obligation. This is something I must do for money and prestige and success. And if I don't do it, I need to feel guilty about it. And I just, it hit me that I never gave myself permission to have guilt-free fun anymore in anything. And I'd stopped playing with my friends. I even when we interacted, it was like businessy, or it was like, sorry, man, I'm busy. You know, I'll talk to you. Never. And I was always sitting in a chair all day. I was staring at screens, and I was drinking caffeine, a stimulant, to make things even worse. And I was depriving myself of sleep. And I was staying up in bed looking at screens even more. So waking my mind up and taking in this random information that's ultimately pointless because I was destroying my health. Yeah. Like I just was destroying myself and feeling guilty about not destroying myself enough with my workaholic habits. And it just hit me that the solution was so obvious, like to play, to not only just like get out and start interacting with people again and having fun with them and doing stuff that's not related to work, to give myself permission to enjoy life by bonding with people. Like my best friends in high school were all people I played sports with for years.
True.
Those are the people I'm still closest with today. And so to give myself permission to not only go play, but to view every opportunity in life, every moment as an opportunity to play, to view the world as a playground and people as playmates instead of cellmates. Yeah. You know, it changed everything, because instead of, you know, hustling to finish up a meal and getting the waitress to hurry up and swipe the credit card and everything so I could get back to work, I suddenly found myself playing little games with people and being more flirtatious and just joking around more and pranking my friends and just playing. Yeah. And being more playful. And it changed everything around me because I didn't realize it, but my nervous energy was being put onto other people. They detected it on a subconscious level and they reflected it back at me. And so everyone around me was anxious too and nervous. And when I started playing, it gave them permission to play too. And they reflected that back at me. And then all of a sudden I was surrounded by fun people who were enjoying life. And it's because I gave myself that permission to not feel guilty about having fun, and knowing that play was not only essential to getting my health back, but it was just fundamentally a part of being human that I deprived myself of.
And I think a lot of people can relate. I think you hit it on the head. We're all so busy. We don't have time for this or that. We get caught up in trying to achieve, our goals. And even for the person that works a 9-to-5 job, some people are very dedicated for working for other people. They take their job so seriously. They get wrapped up in things. And truly, starting this podcast, having a family, having a full-time job, I feel that I don't have time to play. I still play hockey, and when I do, I love it. But I always think, I can't be playing right now. I got a podcast to record. I got this to do. I got the family to take care of. And I think we could just get caught up in it because as Americans, the hustle and bustle. We don't want to be sitting around doing nothing. And if we are sitting around doing nothing, it's because we just feel so exhausted we don't even want to play.
Right. And yet we're consistently ranked one of the unhappiest countries on the planet.
Yes. Dude,
what a shock.
Yeah, right. That is the reason why I had to get you on here, is because the play aspect is so huge. You could hear it in your voice. I mean, you can tell that it really affected you in a positive way. You're a better person because of it. And now you're even doing stand-up comedy, right?
I'm doing improv. I'm actually going to be doing stand-up too soon. I'm going to be trying that for the first time. But improv to me is the essence of play. It's like the most playful you can be. If you are in improv, you're inherently in the moment. You're just reacting,
right,
and just having fun. And it's like I started doing improv, and the average person with anxiety would never be like, maybe if I do improv, it'll heal my social anxiety. But that's actually what happens, is because you get comfortable. People with social anxiety are terrified of doing something embarrassing or stupid in front of other people. Improv, you are required to look stupid and foolish and do dumb things in front of other people.
Right.
And you bond over that. They are there to support you. They're doing it too. And so improv, I've been doing it for several months now, and I'm actually going to be doing it's a survivor improv where it's me versus 11 other improvers at a paid show tomorrow night. And there's going to be I think 50 or 60 people watching. So I'm kind of a little nervous for that, but it's going to be really fun. It's just a weekly thing that I do. And this is the important part. If people want to start playing more, you don't have to do improv. You just need to do something that you turned to voluntarily when you were young, that you loved to do for fun, that you did because it was fun. And you didn't feel guilty about it ever because it was your fun. It was your game. And I had plenty of things that I did for fun, guilt-free when I was a kid. And I just started making them a priority. I started just doing them once a day for a half hour or longer when I could. And it can just be as simple for me. It was as simple as going to the park with a friend or going outside with a friend with an Aerobie flying disc, the frisbees, the rings, and just playing with that for a half hour and just running around after it and seeing how far we could throw it. And it just getting outside and having guilt-free fun with friends. I even do that now instead of coffee meetings. Instead of meeting over coffee and talking to business people, I ask them if they just want to play catch. And then we actually bond over that and have fun, and we get to be outside and we get to act like normal human beings.
And you have an experience together. Yeah, for sure.
Instead of sitting around drinking drugs.
Right. Exactly. What do you say to the person that feels like, that sounds great? And there might be driving or walking right now and going, you know what? I need to start playing more. I need to start doing that. But then they reflect and they're like, when could I play? And they just think, I can't. I got this, I got that. What do you say to those people? How to fit it in? Do you plan for it?
I say, first of all the stuff that you say is so important, that you think is so critical. is the vast majority of it you are wrong.
Yeah.
You are wrong about. It's not. We're talking about your emotional, physical, and mental health. And play covers all of them. And social health.
Yeah.
Play covers all of those bases. All of them. And I'm not asking you to change your life. I'm asking you to have fun on your own terms. This is not a sentence. This is you enjoying life, giving yourself permission to enjoy life and actually bonding with other people. This is the key to happiness. This guy did this really extensive study on the happiest people, and he found that all of them who reported it being the happiest in the top 10%, the only thing they had in common, the only thing was the quality of their relationships. Not money, not anything else. It was the quality of their relationships. And if you really want to have quality relationships, you are not going to get that by hanging out on the Tinder app or going to networking conferences. You're going to get that by actually bonding over a fun activity that you and other people enjoy doing, not just sitting around talking, but actually bonding over fun activities, playing.
Dude, that is so key to life. And I appreciate you getting so passionate about it because, this has truly helped you. Now obviously, give us we heard the before. Now let's hear the after of your anxiety and everything. I'm assuming that it has dissipated, correct?
Oh, big time. It left in a month. Like,
wow.
It evaporated so steadily that I just didn't even notice it anymore. It was just like, it was gone. One day I woke up and I was just like, wait a second, I feel totally normal.
Yeah.
Like, I feel fine.
Yeah. No drugs, no side effects, nothing. That's awesome.
And and all those things that I tried, some of them did work after that. But it required me to look at the world differently before I could heal. Yeah. And I think that's the case with every anxious person. And I think it's so important for people to give themselves permission to revert to that childlike state, because we grow up and we're told to take everything so serious, take everything seriously. Yes. And when none of it's serious, none of it, like almost none of it. And everything that you've been told is serious is like, it's only as serious as you make it in your head. Right. And I think if you really want to be happy, you need to give yourself the permission to play with your friends.
Last question about the play. How do you tell somebody, maybe they go, you know what, Saturday I'm going to go to open gym. I'm going to play basketball. I love playing basketball. I'm going to go to the Y, whatever. Mm-hmm. But they walk into the gym, their mind is active, they feel guilty. Like, how do you tell somebody? Do you just tell them to, work through it, to get that hour in no matter what? Do you, do you have any suggestions how to shut off that person talking on the inside,
The guilt?
What's that?
How to shut off like the guilt?
Yes,
the
yeah.
Well, I would say a few things to them. One, you just have to recognize that like this is your antidote. Like it's nothing to feel guilty about. Like this should be your priority. If you are an anxious person who's dealing with debilitating anxiety, panic attacks, this looking at the world as an opportunity to have fun, looking at your life as a series of opportunities to have fun, and recognizing that play can get you back to your normal, functional, confident, happy self, you should not be feeling guilty. Don't, because this is the drug that can get you back. The second thing I would say to that is that my friends consistently, and I have consistently found that when we take time to play and just have fun with each other, not only are we happier, but we come back to our work and are more productive and more creative because we approach our work with a sense of lightness and fun. Whereas an anxious person who's working around the clock, I guarantee they are not being as creative or productive.
Yeah.
They're definitely not being efficient.
Going off of that, go on. You have another number three?
No, I was just going to say, like, I had a friend who was going to pull an all-nighter to finish up a website. And she was like, I have at least 6 hours of work ahead in front of me. I missed the deadline. And she was super stressed out. And my friend and I just kidnapped her. And we took her mini golfing. Nice. And we went for a few hours and she loosened up. She relaxed. She went home, got a full night's sleep, and the next day she woke up and she told us, she was like, I finished the website in less than 2 hours. Wow. And it was even better. And it's like, sometimes you just need to give yourself a break. You need to not feel so guilty about not being perfect and being this machine that can produce all the time, and just go have fun, do something else. Like Einstein used to take time off so he could play violin, and he would come up with his deepest realizations when he would do that. It's like, there's so many different forms of play that you can revert to if you're feeling any sort of burnout, and you can get yourself back to normal.
Yeah. And, you know, another case study that I just read in a magazine, in Entrepreneur Magazine, is Burton. You know, Burton Snowboards, the CEO of it. He puts in his own contract that he has to be on a hillside snowboarding 100 days out of the year. Awesome. You know, because of all the things you said. You know, creative. You know, allows him to be more enthusiastic. You know, it gives him better drive. You know, it kind of reignites everything in his business life, but also gives him his own personal space out on the slope. So. You know, like what you said, man, it's so true. And, you know, the one thing that I say time and time again is when you hear it from other people, like these case studies, or your friend, how you kidnapped and she did a great job the next day, she, you know, lessened her load by 4 hours, that it works. You know what I mean? We're not making up fluff. We're not, you know, just saying, oh, give it a try and it should work for you. No, this is real stuff. I mean, it really, truly has, it changed you, you know? So it
has the power to transform. It's just, the temptation, I think, to stay connected to work is really overpowering for some people, or to just like check in on Facebook or Instagram. And what I would suggest then is, if you have a hard time dealing with that temptation of checking email or making sure you're not missing a call, just turn your phone off and leave it at home. Right. Like, you're not going to miss anything important.
Right.
Almost anyone on the planet can go 24 hours without missing anything important.
Right. And even if you're only going to play for an hour, hour and a half anyway, even 2 hours, you know what I mean? So it's not like you're going to play for 24 hours and,
make
you know,
up an excuse.
Right.
If you really miss something important, just say like, look, my phone died. I wasn't near a charger.
Yeah, exactly.
Done.
Exactly.
You know, and turn your phone off so it rings straight to voicemail, and then they can't ever question that.
Right. Charlie, man, geez, multifaceted conversation. I love it. This was more than I paid for, so I greatly appreciate your time, man. How can people get in touch with the book? Play It Away. I know it's on Amazon, probably all over the place.
Yeah. The best place is just to go on Amazon and search for Play It Away. It's really cheap. It's like $11, I think, for the paperback, and I forget what I have the price at for Kindle, but it's cheap. I guarantee it will deliver the money's worth. I promise you. If you want to check out other stuff I do, just visit my site. It's charliehone.com, CharlieHoehn.com.
Awesome. And if you guys like our conversation, I really think you're going to like the book, because his writing, your writing, man, is really good. Like, it's really passionate. It's really
Thank
deep.
you.
And it really drew me into his article that how I originally found Charlie. And I imagine your book is the exact same way, because it's you writing it. So, man, it's it's an awesome journey that you personally went through. And to end the conversation, like all of the other podcasts, what does a self-reset mean to you?
Self-reset. I was thinking about this because you told me it earlier.
Yeah.
Or you gave me a warning, which I appreciate. I think a self-reset it can be any single moment. You can reset yourself whenever you're ready. And I think play, not to tie it too much into my own stuff, but play reminded me of that, is you get a choice every moment on how you approach your life and the way that you approach the world. And it's always a choice. And whether you look at the world as this scary, frightening place, or a loving playground where you get to have fun, that was my reset.
Awesome, Charlie, man. Well said, well put. Head on over, guys, and get his book. Charlie, it's an honor and a pleasure to talk to you. Great conversation. And I wish you nothing but the best in the future, man.
Thank you, dude. It was a really good conversation. I really enjoyed you giving me a platform to talk about my crazy ideas, and it's been fun, man. I'm glad we connected.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks again to Charlie Hoehn for coming on the podcast. You guys can go check out his book on Amazon, Play It Away. I think it relates to a lot of people that are listening to this podcast in particular, just because, like I said earlier, I still play hockey. I love hockey. Getting out on the ice is just exhilarating. There's nothing like it. And you may have that sport or activity or hobby that just gets you in that right mindset. And sometimes when we're playing that, sport, activity, or hobby, or doing our thing, we feel guilty, like, oh man, I really should be working, or I should really be doing this or that. And we start to reduce the amount of fun that we have in our life because we feel we're too busy, we don't have enough time, all of that stuff. And I think it just resonates with a lot of people to hear it again, to just do things that you find fun, exhilarating, doing something creative, and separating yourself. And truly a personal story. As you know, I have a young guy, he's 10 months old now, and I spend a lot of time on this podcast. I spend a lot of time recording and editing. I have a full-time gig, and I do a lot of things that take a lot of time away from my family. But I realize, though, that these moments of him growing up and spending time with my wife, I can't get back. And the same applies to you. There's times in your life you cannot get back. As much as you think, oh, you know what, I'll celebrate the good times with my family next week or the following week or whatever. This is the time to enjoy it. And I personally dedicate now whole days to my family. And I know that sounds, oh my gosh, you have to spend a whole day to your family. Oh, good for you. But no, like I'm just trying to say that, I would be, in and out. I'd be like, all right, I got to work on my project for a couple hours and I'll hang out with you guys for a couple hours. By 8 o'clock, I got to work on this or that. I realize, what, however it unfolds. And I've been enjoying my time much more because of my family. And I reduce the time I spend mentally on this podcast, when I'm with my family. What good am I as a father if I'm playing with my son and I think of, oh man, I gotta write this blog post. Oh man, I gotta post on Twitter. Oh man, I gotta go on Facebook and see this or that. Where's my head at? I really need to be engaged of what I am doing, and I think Charlie really uncovers that for people that may not remember how fun it is to get out and play and do something exhilarating. So, Charlie, man, you rock, dude. And that's it for today. It's a long podcast. It's a 2-part series. Tomorrow morning, Thursday, is another motivational minute. I really enjoy that. I really enjoy these motivational minutes. I think it gets not only myself inspired and exhilarated, but I hope it helps you. And sometimes I get a little deep and passionate about it because, life is a crazy journey, and the thing is, we got to make the most out of it. And sometimes we wake up on the wrong side of the bed and we just don't want to deal with the things that are in our lap, but it's part of our own, personal story. And I don't know. I don't know. I hope you can feel the passion through this microphone. That's all I'm saying, and I hope whatever you're doing, you find passion within whatever you are doing. If it's with your family, a sport, activity, a job, a hobby, something that you just find awesome, and that's all I can say. This whole experience is awesome. Connecting with you guys is amazing. Speaking with you guys online and hearing your stories and the things that are going good and not good with you is truly awesome. I don't even have a better word for that than awesome. So you guys rock like always. If you have a question for me, head on over to ask@osreset.com. And in the future here, I am thinking of doing a webinar. Yes, a webinar, which is a gathering of you guys online and myself, and we're going to go over some topics and stuff. And I want to see if you would find that interesting. Would you guys like to do that? If so, if you would like, oh my gosh, yeah, that'd be great. I can talk to you and we can, talk tactics and strategy when it comes to life. It would be really cool to hear the response from you guys. So please head on over to ask@osreset.com. Email me and just say, yeah, it'd be great. And then if you could give me a topic that we could start a webinar about, I think it'd be really fun and interesting for not only myself, but for you guys too. So thank you like always. You guys rock and are awesome, and you're the best, and I appreciate your time so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Make it the best day of your life, and kick butt every single minute you can. We will talk soon. Love you. We'll see ya. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Operation Self Reset podcast. Find out more ways to reset at www.osreset.com.